Hi, welcome to Happy Tales. I'm Cheryl Rosenthal, Communications and Education Coordinator here at the Oshkosh Area Humane Society.
And I'm Joni Geiger, Executive Director.
And Joni, today we have two very special guests. We have Dion, and along with her she has Bernice. And of course, Bernice has lots of followers.
Sure does.
And so we're going to talk today about how Bernice came to be and how she is doing today. So welcome and thank you for giving us this time with her.
Thank you.
So Bernice came to us July 10th, 2012. It was late in the day here at the Oshkosh Area Humane Society, and I happened to be here, and I was walking in the back hall, and I smelled a really strong smell of something burning. And I walked in the back, and I said to one of our caregivers, I said, something smells like it's burning. And they looked at me and they said, we think it's this cat that we picked up. We had gotten a call from somebody in the community that said that there was a cat in their yard and they thought it was dying or dead, and could we please come and pick it up? And they had picked up Bernice. And when I looked in that carrier at this cat, all I could see was she looked shiny all over, and I immediately thought of a cat in New York City, known to everyone as Scarlet, who had gone into a burning building to rescue her kittens. And I said, this cat has to go to the vet immediately. I said, she has been burned. And so she was rushed over to Animal Hospital of Oshkosh. And to be honest, when our staff came back, we were not sure if she was going to make it or not.
It was unbelievable.
She was just burned so badly all over her body.
Right. The veterinarian actually had called shortly after and said, you know, we knew it was very, very serious, but just said we'd like to give her 24 hours because she was fighting. She was really, really...
She wanted to live.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and so that's what we did, and then the saga went on. So.
Okay, so Dion, you were on vacation when she came in, and you came to work the next day, and tell us what unfolded after that.
I had come into work, and there was a kitty that showed up overnight. All the staff had been gone other than doctors the night she came in. So when we had walked in, we could smell smoke. We didn't really know what was going on until we...
So even then?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So at that point, she had been on IV fluids overnight. She looked like her hair was all singed, but you really couldn't see the extent of the damage at all. So at that point, we had talked with you guys. We had bathed her and sedated her to shave her completely down. Wow. And still then, there wasn't very many visual burns because she was basically it was burning from the inside out. So as time went on, the burns and the extent became even more obvious.
Right.
So
it was a lot more serious than any of us had thought.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. So, and we should probably talk a little bit about that, Cheryl, just so you know. And unfortunately, cruelty cases are real, and harm to animals is very real. We immediately, on our end, needed to investigate and figure out what was going on.
Well, we were trying to figure out, because it was around the 4th of July.
Right.
You know, did she get caught up in some fireworks? Had somebody done this to her, or was she in part of, one of the things that we looked into is, was she part of a house fire?
Right.
Could she have been in a home where there had been a fire? And we were just trying to explore all those different avenues to find out what could have happened to this cat that she was so severely burned.
And obviously what we did is we checked with our local fire department. We wanted to see if there was if there were any fires or anything that was reported and so on and so forth, and there was absolutely nothing, obviously.
Right.
And I think as time progressed and you saw the burns and where they were located, the conclusion was, certainly by the doctors and by the fire department as well, and the police department, that this was an intentional situation where someone intentionally tried to harm this cat.
And I believe as a Humane Society, we had offered a reward for any information leading to a conviction or information as to, did anybody see any of this happening?
Right.
And
we're still looking, by the way. Nothing had ever showed up. Nobody came forward. So it is still an open investigation, despite it being a year and a half old. Right. But the good news is that Bernice obviously has not only done well, she has actually thrived.
Right. Now, so Deanne, what other things happened to her? What were some of the, what was the progress to her? Because this isn't something like you've got a little burn on your hand and it scabs over and it goes away. What are some of the things that she had to endure?
Well, for quite some time, daily, we would have to sedate her and clean her up and trim away at what was starting to slough off, and then we would have to re-bandage her, doing wet to dry bandages. And after a while we could extend that period, and eventually we were able to not have to continue with wet to dry. But that was a very long process. She was a very patient kitty, and through that all, I mean, I don't remember initially what she came in weighing, but she ended up with severe diarrhea. We fought a lot of battles. She was less than 4 pounds.
Yeah.
And she just kept on trucking. Even though she couldn't get up, she still wanted to eat.
Yeah.
Her eyes told us, you know, don't give up.
Yeah.
And
Remarkable, remarkable desire to live. I mean, just unbelievable.
Yes.
Yeah, no
And then
question about it.
she also had to have some skin grafting done. Was that down the road? Or?
It was probably at least a year after, so we wanted her to fully be healed, and then we did start doing some skin grafting. The majority of them were very successful because her legs were very restricted, her rear legs and her front legs. So those were very successful. The ones that didn't work, we tried to do a skin graft on her one eye because her one eye is worse than the other. And unfortunately, that skin graft did not work. It did help grow a little bit of hair in that area, but that's really about it.
Yeah.
But her eyes are fine. They, you know, they look like they would be painful in that, but they do not bother her at all. We don't have to do any kind of medication or anything.
Did they ever determine how much of her body was burned?
I don't recall if they really did.
Okay.
And who was instrumental? I know that there were a lot of different, you know, doctors that had worked with her. Were there specialists involved? I know that maybe we want to talk a little bit about Dr. Becky, because there's a lot of pictures of Dr. Becky, who was her primary physician, I believe, at Animal Hospital. And then who else? I mean, was this kind of a national, you know, were they getting information from other clinics or other experts?
I know Dr. Becky had consulted with many different people regarding this because it's kind of something no one really has went through. So she did consult with many people throughout the United States, and that she was the primary doctor that did take care of her. We had another doctor, Dr. O'Brien, who does come in.
I'm sorry, she's just so cute.
I know. And she's the doctor who donated all of her time for the skin grafts and all that stuff, just to help out with her. So
now, was everything done at the clinic, or did you guys have to take her elsewhere, or?
Everything was done at the clinic. The only thing we did go up to the referral center in Appleton just to consult with regarding her eyes and that. But we had decided that there wasn't a lot we could do that would actually benefit her.
Okay.
And so when did was there a time that you feel, because you were also one of her primary caregivers, when do you feel she turned a corner and you knew that, okay, she's gonna make it no matter what?
I guess that's a really tough one. I think honestly we all really believed she was, because we consulted all the time about, you know, are we really doing what's right for her, or are we just hanging on, just hoping?
Right.
And so I think we always really believed she would make it through it. We had wonderful pain management on board for a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So I think we always believed. There was at one point where one of the doctors we had consulted with said potentially because the burns were kind of burning from the inside out, they were worried she was going to almost have like a shrimp effect where she was just going to shrivel.
Oh, wow.
And at that point we were really worried, but we had decided with, you know, she's eating, she's up, she's not uncomfortable, and we're not seeing that. So we just kept an eye on it, and we never seen that. So I think I always really believed she would pull through.
Well, she remarkable spirit. I mean, just absolutely amazing to me that she, and I when Deanne brought her out, I hadn't seen her for, I don't know, maybe 8 months or so. Yeah. And this is amazing. I can't believe how much weight she put on. She looks so fantastic. And I mean, to see that she's got a full coat of fur, I mean, and that she's a tiger.
Yep, she is a tiger.
It's just absolutely
She's a
amazing to me.
tiger.
Yes, I'm just, you know, you look at her and you just go, wow, that's just, you know, other than her face,
and I'm
you
sure
would know
that,
it.
you know, I know that we received some calls of people, you know, is this really the right thing to do? Should you be doing this? You know, and it's like we were relying on the doctor's expertise because, again, we did not want her to do undue suffering, but she obviously was showing, I mean, I remember seeing pictures of her with her pink little teddy bear, and she was no shrinking violet. I mean, she was like, this happened to me and I'm gonna just prove it to you guys that I can survive. So, and what is she like in a home environment? I know I visited your house a while back and we did a little video. Yep. I think I have it somewhere. But she lives with other cats. How is she with other animals? Does she have any fears? Are there any things like that she, you know, is afraid of or hesitant about, or is she just kind of?
She's not fearful of anything, including fire still.
Wow.
So we do not burn candles.
Wow.
Yeah, so that doesn't even scare her. She loves all the animals. We have one cat where she's a little bit of a stinker with. It's another female, but the other female she's fine with. So she's absolutely awesome. And we had adopted a dog several months back who had major anxiety issues. And so we would have to comfort him at night, and Bernice got into the routine where she would lay behind him and press herself against him, almost like she knew that he just needed that comfort to know people were there, and he'd go to sleep. So she just, it's like she continues to give, knowing that she's been.
That's absolutely amazing to me. Now, I do have a question regarding, and maybe we could just bring her up here, because I want to show people maybe a little bit of, you know, her coat and some of the burns and what.
Pretty girl.
So this is a major recovery here. I mean, she's and
well,
I
her
noticed
face was totally gone.
Yeah,
Her skull was exposed.
Yep, I remember that. Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about that. I noticed that she has some indentation.
Yep.
Up on her skull here, and her ears are gone.
Yes.
And now, is that obviously it's directly related to the burns?
Yes.
And that just sloughed off, or what?
It did. Everything had sloughed off, and the indentation, that was all skull exposure.
Right.
It took a very long time for her skin to grow back in and cover up.
And this long hair is
that's where the
part of
graft.
the skin graft. So she's
Yep. That's
yeah,
where
little tufts of hair.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're so beautiful. Yes, you are a girly girl.
And she sees.
She sees
She
perfect.
has no. Okay, so she
Yes.
has no. Now I noticed that there are several spots in her along her body that you know obviously there's not hair, and I assume there never will be.
No.
Yeah. So that's gone.
And we have a picture, and we'll where
We'll show
it
lots
showed-
of pictures. Yeah.
so that you know
So
where
people
that
can
was.
see that.
But when you see her from this side, it's like she looks pretty normal. Now she had some problems because of the scarring under her legs. I remember that was a real concern with her being able to stretch or to do things. And you know, before she was climbing up on the scratching pole, she doesn't seem to have any problems. Was there a special surgery that they did that for the muscles or for the skin in those areas?
Yep, that is where they did the grafts on the front arms and one of the rear legs, because they were very restricting. She was limited on her movement. She definitely is not limited anymore. She gets into anything and everything.
She's all over the place.
Yeah,
She
nothing.
looks like mischief.
Yeah. So now, was the burn more on the underside and here, and then on the head, and not so much on the back?
Not a lot on the back. The fur was all singed, but we didn't really have a whole lot, you know, down the back of her neck and down to maybe her front shoulders on her back. There was burning just below her shoulders, and then she was pretty okay on the back half.
Is that indicative to anything in particular, like how she was burned?
I think from what I recall is they thought maybe there was some kind of accelerant applied to her, potentially.
Yeah. So, which would make sense because it was so localized and not all over. So, which is I mean, you can't even comprehend.
Yeah, I can't comprehend anybody.
So we're not going there.
Doing that.
And I guess my next question would be then, now how old is she?
We're going to say right around 3.5.
Okay. And she was under a year when this happened. So prognosis-wise, she's going to live a long, healthy life?
She should. We've had about where we think she probably does have some asthma. So right now we've just been monitoring that with prednisone right now because it's not very frequent. And so that's been going okay. There may come a point where we may need to go to inhaler.
Okay. So, and I would assume that's, you know, from lung damage. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So some damage that way.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And I mean, I have to say, she's just, for you folks who need to understand, she's just been all over this room. You are absolutely right. She has no fear. She's checking everything out. Yeah. She just, you know, she's very curious. Yeah. No question, just based on what you're telling us, that incredible desire or will to live, obviously, right from the get-go. Right. I mean, she's a survivor. There's no question about that.
So now, Joni, because, you know, she came into our shelter, was it through the Cuddles Fund that we were able to
Yes,
help
thanks for
her?
mentioning that, Cheryl. Yes, absolutely. And first I must say that our community and all over, folks really responded. I mean, they were pulled
I think
apart.
you got things from overseas.
Yes.
It was not just national news, it
Right.
was international news
Yeah.
that something had happened to this
So-
kitty and people wanted to help.
Yes, and they did. And the truth of the matter is that there were a lot of people that stepped up, yourself, Animal Hospital including, a lot of the doctors that came on board and, you know, just did things because...
Dr. Becky,
yeah,
you know,
good
and
people.
the hours
Just
and
good
hours,
people.
because there for a while she had to have almost round the clock.
Didn't you take her
That
home
was-
on weekends?
Initially, no. Myself and Deanna Frankowski, we would come back pretty often. I was pretty close, so it was a little bit easier for me to be a little more frequent. And so we were there a lot, especially in the beginning when we were dealing with really bad diarrhea and that you don't want with open wounds. You needed to keep her clean. Yeah, so it was definitely a lot of trips for the two of us. Yeah. We were back and forth. And then throughout the night,
she's so incredible. She almost looks exotic. I mean, actually, but so to get back to that, Cheryl, yes, it was from the Cuddles Fund that we were able to address her medical issues, and I think this is important for people to understand that our Cuddles Fund. I mean, Bernice is obviously a glowing example of how it can help these animals, but I mean, and what happened to her is extreme, but we have animals almost every day that come in that need major medical care, and again, that's where that Cuddles Fund is so important.
We're
to
not
us.
able to do it if the Cuddles Fund doesn't remain, you know, active. We're not going to be able to.
I mean, we have injuries and things that happen that obviously challenge us every single day. So you know, we appreciate that, and we ask that people continue to support that fund so that we can help these animals.
We're going to take a little bit of time, Dion. You know, I think when we see Bernice at the beginning, and now we see Bernice now, I don't think people realize that this didn't just heal overnight. This was months and months of healing. And so what I'd like to do is I pulled out some pictures, and let's talk about each of those pictures and what's going on here. This was within one of the first days that she was there. What's going on in this picture?
This is where we shaved her down and then we bathed her just so we could see the extent of what was going on, where the burns were, what maybe had been seen. And at this point you can see, you really can't even see any visible burns.
Okay.
It's just all singed hair yet, is what it looks like.
But she's hot underneath.
Correct.
The skin is still burning, more or
Yes.
less. So is that painful to have a bath when that's done? Or, I mean...
She didn't seem like it. She definitely was on pain medication already at
Okay.
this point. So,
Okay. And then
yes.
here we can see, you know, her face looks fine. Like there's nothing missing there.
Correct.
And then her feet, the pads of her feet were
were
severely
scorched.
burned.
Yep.
Okay. And so giving her that bath was, because I know they do that with human burn victims. You're given a bath to slough off the dead skin.
What do they bathe them in? What are you using? Do you recall?
I don't recall what we used, to be
Okay.
honest.
Yeah, because I would assume it would have to be something that would be relatively
Pretty
mild.
gentle,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
So, and then here it looks like, did she have like an IV?
She
or?
did, yes. At first we had to place catheter in the neck just because everything else was burnt and it was really hard to hit a vein in her arm even.
Okay. So having,
initially it
okay.
was.
So was that to give her fluids?
It was, yes, to keep her hydrated, and so yeah.
Okay. So she looks pretty out there, and you can see a little bit on her face.
Yes.
But here again, you know, it looks like all of her fur is on her face.
Yes.
And so we don't really know that what lies ahead in these very,
It is
early
very
days.
deceptive, though.
It is.
It truly is. I mean,
Yeah.
when you look at it, and like you said, you could smell, but you know.
Yeah.
Even her ears, I mean, you can see the tips are a little burnt, but it looked like she still would have maybe had ears. But as the day went on, they just became drier and drier,
And that tissue
died.
just died and,
Yep.
and fell off. And then in this picture, this, you know, on the first picture, it showed you can't hardly see anything here, and this had to be maybe a couple days later.
probably a couple days.
And the skin is actually peeling off,
It
sloughing
is.
off. Is that it? The top tissue dies
Yes.
and falls off, or
Correct.
it sloughs off. Is that what
I
you
think they call it sloughing, and what's happening is the burning is happening under her skin, so the heat's still kind of there, and it's causing the skin to die.
Okay.
And so it sloughs off in pieces, and that's why we were sedating her at that time and just giving her a warm water bath and trying to remove what we could of the dead skin as it happened, you know, and it just continued. You know, initially you think you'd almost be to the point where you'd be good and a new area would start.
Wow. So that's all taking place underneath the skin.
Correct.
You know, so that like the fire is absorbed and then it has to come back out.
Yep.
So here we see her all bandaged up in pink bandages. What is the purpose of this, and how labor intense is doing that to an animal daily?
It was a lot. You know, we'd fully anesthetize her. We'd have to intubate her. We'd go through the process of warm water baths, trying to remove what we could, and then removing whatever else that was sloughing. And then we'd do wet to dry. So you'd put wet bandages on, wrap it with vet wrap, and then the other is just to kind of keep bandages in place so they wouldn't slip. And so that was daily for quite some time until things started to stop sloughing and kind of started to granulate.
Okay.
So was she sedated through this whole process, and then obviously pain meds down the road, so that she was conscious, but she was under
Yes.
medication for
Yep.
pain?
Definitely.
And then here we have a picture of one of her first surgeries for the tissue in her arm.
It would have been, yeah.
Under the arm. And on these pictures we can see, now we're starting to see the sloughing, it's coming off of her head, where in those previous pictures we thought, well, she's going to have a full head of hair, everything is fine. But now in these pictures from end of July to the beginning of August, we see that more and more tissue is sloughing off of her face, and that she's losing more of that. And I'm sure that also that it's pulling, as it heals, it's pulling, and that's what's pulling on her eyes, kind
Exactly.
of making her look slanty-eyed.
Now, is this one of her doctors here?
This is Dr. Becky.
Yep.
Okay, Dr. Becky. Okay.
Dr.
Yes.
Becky with her. And then this picture again shows how her ears are missing, how much skin she has lost on her side. And then this is November of 2011. Again, you can see she's pretty pink on the sides here, and then some sloughing again on her face.
So that's 5 months later.
But more, there's, from this picture to this picture, there's even more.
Yes, and if you look, you can see on the leg, how she's even holding it, how it was restricted, and that's
Yes.
where all the grafts kind of came in place to where it would kind of loosen things up.
Because
And
as that tightens,
Yes.
as that heals, it just kind of shrivels everything
Everything
up and
tightened.
it tightens it up. And then here we are in June of 2012. We've
Yep.
had give her time to heal before she could have another grafting surgery. And so here she is playing with, who is this little kitty she's with?
that is Pucker. We call him her boyfriend.
Okay, somebody to
That's one
give
of her
comfort.
housemates, but yes, she bonded with him very easily, and he's an easygoing cat, so he was kind of like a comfort measure for her. She really
Okay.
enjoyed him.
And here she is bandaged up again to protect those areas.
Yeah, she likes to be dressed up. She tolerated that
Okay.
well.
And then sleeping with her little bear, and obviously looking pretty good here.
Yes.
And so, quite an ordeal.
When did she actually go home?
You know,
when you brought her home, do you recall?
I don't even remember.
Yeah.
I really don't. At this point here in June, she had already been to our house because her and Pucker were buddies
Okay.
and that. So, and then she had come back for a short while.
Okay. All right.
So, well, again, Dion, thank you so much for this wonderful update
Amazing.
with Bernice.
Absolutely
and
amazing. What a story.
yeah, it really is a story, and thank you for sharing her with us and letting everybody have an update about Bernice. So, until next time, happy tales to you.